I have two guitars, more specifically two pickup systems I want to show you today. The Trance Audio Amulet in this guitar, and in this one, the LR Baggs Anthem. Let's plug them in, press record, see what they sound like back to back. I've had these two guitars and pickups for several years now, and I've played them in a variety of settings, plugged in live, but I haven't ever done a direct recording of them to see what they sound like back to back. So this was fascinating for me to have a listen. For the most part, what I heard back was what I expected, but there were a few surprising things for me. At any rate, I think it's good information. It's good information for me, and hopefully it's good information for you as well. One thing to mention right away is that acoustic guitar pickups, they really work best when they're plugged into a full range PA or an amp specifically designed for acoustic guitars. It's really what they're designed for. So I grabbed the practice PA that my band uses and set up one of the speakers in the next room. And when I recorded them direct, I also sent a signal to that PA in the next room and recorded that as well. I mic'd the PA with an SE Electronics SE8, which is a small diaphragm condenser microphone that has a flat frequency response. I placed it a couple feet away from the speaker to try to minimize any sort of proximity effect, but not have too much room sound. It's not super scientific. It's probably not the best way to do this, but I wanted to hear what they sounded like. And I think if I did it again, I'd actually put the mic even further away to hear sort of what it sounds more like in the room. But we'll listen back, and I think you'll hear that there is a difference between the PA and the direct recording. So I think this is more subtle than what I was expecting and what I usually experience at an actual venue with a PA, but it does sound different, and to me it still highlights the fact that pickups do sound better through a PA in a room than recorded direct. You know, there's also something that you can't experience through listening to a recording on YouTube of a pickup that you get when you're playing it. Something about the feel and the response that no recording can really capture. To me, it's kind of like the digital versus analog thing. in the end, the sound of digital is getting so close to the real thing that it can be really hard to tell. But when you're using them, the experience is still quite different in many cases. So when it comes to recording acoustic guitar, I still think the old-fashioned microphone is the way to go for both the sound and the feel. That said, there are some reasons you might want to plug in and go direct. My first and really only experience is to plug in and record the direct signal along with miking the guitar. You can mix in some of that direct signal to get a particular sound that might work well in the mix of a song. And actually, a pickup that doesn't sound all that natural might work better here, because the purpose is more about finding a unique or particular sound that works well in the song, and not necessarily chasing for the most pure acoustic tone. And this year, because of the pandemic, we've seen live streaming shows skyrocket. And this brings up another reason, and maybe the most common reason, that you may want to go direct rather than using a mic. Maybe you live in a noisy area near an airport, or you have young kids running around. Maybe you live in the city and there's lots of traffic or close to a highway. It might make sense to plug in directly and then use a dynamic vocal mic to do a live stream show. And then all that background noise that you have is almost completely eliminated. Also, if you like to use certain effects or you do looping in a live setting and you want to seamlessly transition that to a live stream, then plugging in like you normally would at a venue and sending that to the stream makes a ton of sense. I never used to think that what a pickup sounds like direct was all that important, other than as information about what they might then sound like through a PA. But I think my opinion is starting to change on that. And with the IR pedals like the Fishman Aura, the Tone Dexter, the LR Baggs Voice Print, it seems we are getting closer and closer to being able to achieve a very realistic sound when going direct. In addition to the ever-evolving tone chasing that some of us are doing, I think the live streaming and record and sort of bedroom recording studio situations are big reasons we're starting to see more and more IR pedals and the popularity and acceptance of these pedals. It's going to be really interesting to hear how this evolves and translates back into live shows when we can do that again in the future. All right, so for a more real life scenario, let's use some EQ and a few other little things to enhance the sound of these pickups. After all, there's almost no setting that you're just going to plug your guitar into the PA and go. Even if you're just using the DI that the venue supplies that has no tone shaping at all, whoever's running sound is certainly going to do at least a small amount of EQ. Sometimes more drastic, sometimes some notch filtering, sometimes some compression, some reverb. So this is sort of how I have my rig set up for each of these guitars. I'm treating them each a little different, just like I would in a real live situation. I've got a small amount of EQ and compression that is built into the Fishman Aura Spectrum DI, a little bit of comp EQ and saturation from the LR Baggs Align session pedal, and sometimes I use a touch of reverb here and there. The IR imaging of the Aura is not blended in at all, so this is just the pickups. The Anthem sounds more airy. It has a depth and a complexity to it that sounds really nice. And the Trance has a distinction from string to string. It's more direct and immediate sounding. I'd say the Anthem is more lush sounding and the Trance has more emphasis on the fundamentals. Alright, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about these two pickup systems. For me, I don't think one is necessarily better or worse. I just think they're different flavors and they have different purposes. At home or in a smaller venue or quieter environment or recording direct, I'd probably grab the Anthem equipped guitar and use that. And maybe even in a larger venue, if you're sort of in the headlining band or if the venue is made up of people who actually listen, it works really great. And if I'm playing a larger capacity venue where there's a lot of people talking, shouting to each other, yelling to the bartender to order another beer, you really need some of that punchy, direct, more fundamental sound that the Trance audio Amulet brings to the table. Just like there's good reason to use different guitars when recording different songs, I guess, the same thing could be said about pickups. So if you have more than one guitar and you play in a variety of settings, you might consider putting different pickups in different guitars to use them in specific situations. Alright, I'm going to leave you with one last short clip on this one. I blended in a little bit of the IR image from the Fishman Aura on the Trance Amulet. Cheers.